Hello and welcome to Global Intelligence Brief, your weekly source for in-depth analysis of the events shaping our world. I'm your host, Boni. Today, we're dissecting a document that has sent shockwaves through the international community, the 2026 U.S. National Security Strategy. Released by the Trump administration, this 33-page document signals a radical departure from decades of American foreign policy. So, what is it all about? What are the major changes? And what are the likely impacts on geopolitics, the economy, and strategic alliances? Let's break it down. The 2026 National Security Strategy, or NSS, is a document that outlines the core principles and priorities of U.S. foreign policy. It's a roadmap for how the United States intends to engage with the world. This latest version, however, is not just a minor course correction. It's a fundamental reimagining of America's role on the global stage. The strategy explicitly rejects the post-Cold War goal of permanent American domination, calling it an undesirable and impossible goal. Instead, it champions an America First doctrine, prioritizing national interest above all else. One of the most significant changes is the dramatic shift in regional priorities. For the first time in decades, the Western Hemisphere is now the top strategic priority for the United States. This is a major departure from the long-standing focus on the Middle East and Asia. The strategy introduces what it calls the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, which essentially asserts U.S. preeminence in the Western Hemisphere as a condition for its own security and prosperity. This new focus on the Western Hemisphere is driven by a set of perceived threats. The NSS identifies mass migration, organized crime, and hostile foreign incursion, particularly from China and Russia, as the primary challenges in the region. The document goes as far as to state that organized crime claims more American lives than any other national security threat. To counter these threats, the strategy calls for a larger presence of the Coast Guard and Navy, and even authorizes the use of lethal force to secure the border and defeat cartels. While the Western Hemisphere is getting more attention, Europe is getting a cold shoulder. The 2026 NSS takes an unprecedentedly confrontational posture towards traditional European allies. It warns of economic decline and even civilizational erasure in Europe and expresses concerns about demographic changes. The document goes so far as to explicitly endorse cultivating resistance to the current political trajectory within European nations, stating, "We want Europe to remain European." The strategy also takes a pragmatic stance on the war in Ukraine. It declares that a core U.S. interest is an expeditious cessation of hostilities to stabilize European economies and re-establish strategic stability with Russia. The document blames European officials for prolonging the conflict and blocking U.S.-backed peace efforts. This position has raised serious questions about the future of U.S. support for Ukraine and the transatlantic alliance. The new NSS also signals a significant shift in the U.S. approach to NATO. It reiterates the administration's push to end the perception and reality of NATO as a perpetually expanding alliance. This has fueled concerns about the future of NATO expansion and the U.S. commitment to the collective defense of its allies. When it comes to China, the 2026 NSS outlines a dual-track approach. On one hand, it seeks to contain Beijing's global influence and deter a conflict over Taiwan. On the other hand, it aims to preserve a genuinely mutually advantageous economic relationship with China. The strategy emphasizes reciprocity and fairness in trade and seeks to reduce U.S. dependence on China. Interestingly, the document reduces Taiwan's significance to semiconductors and shipping lanes, a departure from previous administrations' focus on democratic values. In an adjusted approach, the language used towards Russia is more diplomatic than that used for traditional European allies. The strategy emphasizes the need for strategic stability with Russia and frames the resolution of the Russia-Ukraine war as a central interest. This has led to speculation about a potential normalization of relations between the US and Russia. The Middle East, for decades, the focal point of US foreign policy, has been significantly deprioritized. The NSS claims that conflict in the region is subsiding, citing the ceasefire in Gaza and the degradation of Iran's nuclear program. The document states that the Middle East will increasingly become a source and destination, rather than a primary focus of U.S. interests. It also calls for an end to the hectoring of wealthy Gulf monarchies. Perhaps the most fundamental shift in the 2026 NSS is its overtly profit-driven approach to foreign policy. The document is replete with language that frames international relations in transactional terms. For example, it suggests that Latin American countries should grant no-bid contracts to U.S. companies. This marks a clear departure from the long-held American ideal of promoting democracy and freedom around the world. The strategy explicitly states that the U.S. will seek good relations and peaceful commercial relations without imposing on them democratic or other social change. This transactional approach extends to alliances as well. The NSS describes alliances as instrumental rather than intrinsic, viewing them as tools to be used within a broader framework of national interest. This is a significant departure from the traditional view of alliances as partnerships based on shared values and mutual commitments. The 2026 National Security Strategy represents a profound shift in American foreign policy. It's a move away from global leadership and towards a more narrow, transactional, and America-first approach. The long-term consequences of this strategy are yet to be seen, but it is clear that the world is entering a new and uncertain era of international relations. That's all the time we have for today on Global Intelligence Brief. Join us next week for another in-depth look at the issues shaping our world. Until then, stay informed.